the visualization, and I'm constantly actually using it. So, I mean, you could also think of it as like what you dream of having, or like the goals you want to attain. And the thing is, it's like I'm constantly imagining where I want to go from here. I mean, it's just like a constant thing. And I mean,
Welcome to Learn or Be Learned. We either learn from others or others learn from us. The former is able to help us become a better, faster you. Follow me weekly as I dig up stories like a true anthropologist would on one of the three series called Guest Conversations, Book Applications, or My Small Talk Explorations. I'm your host, Shiva Danshaker, and let's talk. Hi, welcome back, friends. So I'm here with Cindy Maram. Cindy is super into this media space, has worked with A-list celebrities such as, Serena and Venus Williams, Hillary Clinton, actors like Margot Robbie, like interviews and stuff. And she's just done a lot. She has two companies. But Cindy, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more?
sure. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really thrilled to be here. Yeah, so basically, I'm a producer and film and media executive. I started an entertainment publication that also covers like fashion, art, and professional sports in 2008. So I'm the founder and editor in chief, and we've kept it going consistently, for over 13 years now. And
Wow.
as mentioned, I've interviewed a lot of A-listers and really, well-known people, and it's really been exciting. And there's been a lot of opportunities. It's evolved into a talk show and YouTube channel called Diggin Magazine Celebrity Interviews, and we also have Scooped podcasts produced by Diggin Magazine. And a few years ago, I started producing independent films, and my creative and production agency is called In Close Entertainment. And basically, we provide public relations, marketing, communications, and production services for the film industry.
Wow. That sounds so exciting.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, this is Learn or Be Learned, the show where, in life you either learn from others or you learn from. So I wanted to ask to start us off, what is something crucial to your life and success that you learned from others or you want others to learn from you?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's so many things I've learned from other people, and just through being an entrepreneur and developing and creating things on my own, and just through experience. So I mean, I definitely have learned by even watching some people in the media space. Like sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
don't even have to know them personally, but actually just seeing, how they've really grown, and like their steps towards success has really been helpful. I mean, also, I learn a lot through trying new things. So, I mean, I could say it's like trial and error, but I don't really like to use that kind of term, because I feel like, you're always like experimenting and growing. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think of anything as like a failure. It's just
Mm-hmm.
really a way to like learn and figure out how to adjust to like
Right.
improve. So I don't really think of things in a negative light, but I think it's important to watch, like, you know, people that are in your like industry, and see like what they did in the beginning, and see how they got to where they're at, and to try to understand how you can use their, I guess, their model, their business model, or their the way they perceive things in their business and in the industry, and take that and use it for yourself and your
Mm-hmm.
own career path.
Right. So what I'm kind of getting is the whole idea of success leaves clues you can learn from others, even if it's not directly learning from, and things like either you succeed or you're learning. It's not really failure. It's more of a learning opportunity to as you experiment, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Mhm.
the thing for myself is a lot of what I do and my thought process and my perception of things is a bit ahead of like what is going on in the business world. I mean, I started my digital publication before there were many websites and blogs and like, you know, people that were into publishing content online.
Right.
So I found it really hard to like take advice from other people. Like, but I would always try, like I'd bounce ideas off of people and then they like, you know, everybody likes to ask, like act like they're the expert on everything. So like,
Mhm.
you know, they give the advice and I'm like, not so sure that pertains to what I'm doing. I don't even know if they understand what I'm doing. So it's kind of hard. So what I do now, what I'm trying, I'm a people person, so I like to talk about like what I'm up to, and I like to like collaborate and bounce ideas off of people. But what I found the most helpful is just doing my own research. So like I do a lot of research online on a daily basis, and you know, of course, you know, you can find so much on Google now, and so that's been helpful. And I've sort of given up on asking consultants for advice because I found that I end up giving them advice. And I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm paying you like, you know, hourly for this. Are you
Yeah.
that I should be doing
Right. Right.
what I'm doing is like it's too far ahead. And but I have a lot of friends in the industry that are also doing new and innovative things.
Mhm.
And that's what's been really cool is that like now I found this really great group of friends, like not only here in LA and in the US, but also internationally. I have a lot of friends in like London and Paris, like, you know, or throughout Europe. And they're like what they're doing and what, you know, the films that they're making and the organizations and the businesses that they're starting are also extremely cutting edge. They're all very new. So, like, now
Mhm.
that I found like the right friends and colleagues, it's like I feel much more comfortable. So, I realized that, like, you know, talking to someone that's like 20 or 30 years older than you and they're trying to give you business advice when they were like active in their careers or like the industry like such a long time ago, it doesn't really help because like, you know, things are changing so rapidly. I mean, if you're in the creative industries, like, you know, it could be you know, film, design, marketing, you know, all like the various, you know, fashion, art, the art world, all of those industries, like, are a lot of it is based on trends, and
Mhm.
trends are constantly evolving. So, like, you have to like really like watch it and stay on top of it. And so, like, someone that was like active in those industries, like, you know, 20, 25 years ago, like they wouldn't really be able to understand what's going on because they're giving you the advice, you know, from like old advice from years ago.
Right.
So I'm not doing that anymore.
Right. What I've heard is, older people have a stronger foundational and systematic approach to because they've been in the industry for so long versus younger people have more of that, naive energy and innovation where they kind of think a little bit more differently because they're not used to this space yet. So I think like, do you notice that balance or dichotomy in the industry?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely dealing with like younger creatives, like I feel like it's more there's a lot more excitement there and you can really you know, feel the passion, you know.
Mhm.
And when I'm speaking with like people of an older generation, it's kind of like they're more like talking about like money. They're really focused on that rather than like the art, I guess you could say, of
Mm,
like the ideas. And so I noticed that the most. Also, like they're not as connected in the network and like and in the community because like in the industry that I work in, which is like mainly like entertainment and fashion currently, it's really like a relationship based kind of industry where you have to do a lot of networking constantly. So, like, I have a really big niche and network of other people, like friends and collaborators. We all work together, and it's been really neat because, like, even with what's been going on with the pandemic and how everything's evolved more into a virtual space. Like we've been all
mm-hmm,
been able to stay connected. So I like ever since it began, like I guess maybe a year and a half ago, I've been staying in touch with everyone, like how we are, online virtually. I've done a lot of these kind of video interviews as like a guest and also as a moderator as well. And then I'll take every opportunity to join like a virtual brunch to like meet
mm-hmm.
new people. And
Oh,
yeah, I do all this kind of stuff. I mean, I've been
that's
doing
so
it for
cool.
yeah, it's really cool. And what's neat is that I guess an upside to what's been going on with the pandemic and it turning into more of a virtual networking space is that like we don't have to travel across the country or across the world on a plane
Right.
to meet other people. For example, like I've been involved in like international film festivals and we've been able to do a lot of networking online. And I've actually met some of my best friends now that I met like over a year ago online. And then my good friend in Paris, she's the director of Paris International Film Festival, and
Mm-hmm.
we met, in the beginning of the pandemic. It was like kind of like a virtual party thing for the Cannes Film Festival, and
Yeah.
I mean they were all drinking like champagne because like in Europe it's like at night, but here I
Mm-hmm.
am in the morning with my coffee.
Right.
But yeah, I woke up for that, and then her and I, like, we've been collaborating, ever since then. And she's an actress and director also, and um, it was so cool. Like we met up in person for the first time in July at this past
Oh.
film festival. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, like, we like talk like, and we're like on Facebook Messenger like almost
Mm-hmm.
every day. So I actually forgot that I hadn't met her because we're on video all the time, and but it was actually the first time we had met in person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that can also be a little different because there's certain aspects that are sometimes lost through virtual interactions. But I definitely talked about this before, and I think it's incredible that the upside to, like you said, the whole pandemic is interestingly new ways of virtual connectivity. And but I'm able to, connect with you and not have to spend like what 500, $600 getting a hotel, a flight ticket, meals just to have our conversation and then fly back. So, and I had a conversation last week with a lady in Australia. So
Oh, wow,
it's
that's awesome.
incredible to see how we can just connect globally instantly and almost basically free.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's
Hmm.
really great. And, now that like virtual like panels and stuff like that is like a normal thing. I mean, I think that, events and like organizations are going to continue doing more virtual things now that we see the benefits to it.
Hmm. So I wanted to ask. You said you had two companies.
Yeah.
What what made you want to start your own magazine company, and how did you keep that going with the whole, shift to online usage and stuff?
Sure. Thanks for asking that. I went to grad school and I completed graduate work in marketing communications, and I had an interest I started out like more as a writing major, and then like I shifted into communications because I didn't want to teach right away. Because like I come from kind of like a family of professors, but I also have entrepreneurs in my family. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my family, they were professors, so it was always this idea that like maybe I'd go into university teaching in the future. But I was kind of like, oh, that doesn't sound that exciting. And I've been in school so long already. Like, do you
Right,
really want to stay
right.
on campus? And then I really liked the excitement of like marketing and advertising and video and film and things like that. So I ended up, shifting into that area. And I began at a Hollywood market research firm. It was really well known. They're no longer running. I think they evolved into another company, but they were a company that tracked youth trends internationally. So like we would do research on like all like international teens, like what they were into. And we would get these like forms, they were filled out like who's your favorite artist, blah blah. And this is like so long ago, and that was the first time, that was like in 2005. And then like that was the first time I ever saw the name John Legend. And I was like, oh, I don't
Mm.
know who this guy is, this John Legend dude, but like his name keeps popping up on all these surveys. I don't know who this guy is. And actually, at that time, like, I don't think many people knew who he was either.
Mm-hmm.
But like these youth, like they were already like on to him. This is like such a long time ago. And they also had a print magazine that I worked on. I did some like Photoshop stuff for the print magazine. It was like a very artsy kind of magazine. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I totally love it. And the co owner of that company was written about and mentioned in Malcolm Gladwell's book, the Tipping Point. That
Oh,
was,
right.
it was like a bestseller. And so, I was always someone that followed a lot of trends and, with fashion and film. I grew up around, in LA. So a lot of my friends, in elementary school and then through high school into part of college, they were actors in like
Mm-hmm.
primetime television, some in some movies and stuff like that. A lot of my friends were athletes that went into like at the NFL and Major League Baseball and soccer, things like that. And this
Wow.
is just these are just who I grew up with, so they were my friends around campus and things like that. So I was always around it, and I loved movies from a very young age. So I always followed all of that very closely, just on my own. So basically, so the market research firm kind of with their print magazine kind of got me interested because I was working a bit on the magazine. And then after I finished the internship, I went on to work, in the corporate world, marketing and advertising departments in various companies. And some of them were publishing houses, like corporate magazine publishers or book publishers. And but then I kept in touch with that market research firm in Hollywood, and they were doing a blogging experiment. This is when there were no blogs. So they invited me to like write for it and like to submit. So I wrote like a couple blog posts, and I took like some photos, and then put them with the blog post. And they were like, oh my God, you're so good at this. You totally killed it. And I was like, because, I had a writing background also, and I love
Mm-hmm.
photography. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And so I started thinking like, oh my God, I totally could do this. And it didn't have anything to do with money at all. I didn't
Yeah.
think about money, but because I had my corporate job and everything, and so I never worried about that type of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
I basically was taking, like, when you're in the marketing fields, you have to know a lot of different things. So like I had already taken like web and graphic design classes, video editing and production. I had done all of that. So I knew how to code. So basically I was like, you know what? I'm totally gonna just like build my own website. So I like hand coded. Dig in my this is It's been
Wow.
redesigned since then.
Mm-hmm.
It's now our WordPress site because it's much
Yeah.
easier, but it was all hand coded. And
Wow.
I reached out with to a few, maybe, I don't know, it's like a few of my friends that were actors at the time. They were up and coming actors, and now, some of them have like TV series on Amazon, and um, they're on bigger TV shows, and they've done a lot of movies, and they're in the Asian American community. I'm part Chinese, actually. I'm part Chinese and part Russian. So
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah. My
Huh.
my whole mom's side of the family, they're immigrants from like China and Hong Kong, and so I have really strong ties in the Asian American community, not only in the film industry, but just like all over. So
Mm-hmm.
beyond the film industry. So I reached out to my friends in the Asian American film community, and they were all so cool. And they're all, of course, so I interviewed them, just like email interviews, and said, send me a few photos. So I had those, and then I just like published them on my site because I coded my whole site. I published it, and then yeah, there was a lot of interest in it. I think
Mm-hmm.
there was some people doing it, but not really that much. And then I also ended up working with some other independent magazines and did some interviews for them. So, and then it just kept growing, and I didn't, like, now over the last number of years, maybe 8 years or so, I started getting invites to interview the A-list celebrities, and getting invites to some of the bigger events. I mean, now I'm a accredited journalist for the Academy Awards. And but at the time when I first started Diggin magazine, print was still seen as more important, so it was more valued. So I would reach out and like, oh, I'm interested in interviewing this person, and like I wouldn't get the interview. I was like, oh gosh, this is really difficult. But I was like, you know what? I think something's gonna change. I think it's like I thought what I was doing was really cool, and all the talent I was interviewing was really excited. So all that
Mm-hmm.
energy kept me going. And then like everything shifted suddenly a few years later, and then suddenly like blogs and websites just took off. And then once that happened, because like it suddenly, all of the online publishing became more relevant than the print because it's so quick to publish. It's like with the push of a button, you can get the news out there. And then I started getting a lot of invites, and then it just kept going.
Right, like we talked about, like how everything's shifting and it's now faster. So
Yeah,
that's incredible.
thanks.
So you had mentioned earlier when you were talking about the whole consulting thing, you were talking about how, you think steps ahead. And you mentioned earlier before the recording that you have a thing with HBO going on and you have so many things happening and you've come so far and you're, obviously going further and you have a lot of successes and you said you think so many steps ahead. I want to ask, right? So I read this thing from, Jay Shetty's book, a TEDx talk about visualization and how visualization is important because it sets you up in this mental state where you envision the thing that you want to become or the thing you want to do and how that helps you, kind of stay focused, stay motivated and head towards that goal. I want to ask you, how important or if at all did you use visualization? Did you constantly think, once you realize this is the space I want to be in, did you have that mental state when you were approaching it? And did you ever expect where you would be today?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
really cool question because not everyone understands visualization, so I think it's really nice and amazing that you fully grasp that concept. So I do use the visualization,
Hmm.
and I'm constantly actually using it. So, I mean, you could also think of it as like what you dream of
Mm-hmm.
having, or like the goals you want to attain.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, it's like I'm constantly imagining where I want to go from here. I mean, it's just like a constant thing. And I mean, my parents would probably never even believe that I planned all of this like over 10 years ago.
Right.
If I told like if I told my family that, they'd be like, "Sure, right."
Right. I'm sure most people would think like that, right?
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
started out like as a writing major, and then I decided, because I worked for in tech for a few years in Silicon Valley, and I worked for Google and YouTube and some of the big other big tech companies in Silicon Valley, also the other ones. And when I was in grad school, I was like, you know what, I think I want to end up at Google at some point. But it's like, I mean, it took like years to get there, but it was like that's everything that I was doing. Or I was kind of thinking I want to end up in Silicon Valley because I didn't do it during the dot-com era.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but eventually I want to do that. But how do I do that? Because I'm a writing major. How do I do that? And I figured out how. And I mean, I graduated from grad school in 2006. And I mean, like, if I told people like back then that, I'm gonna end up in Silicon Valley, in the future, and my goal is to work at Google, they would probably be like, good luck.
Right.
But so I actually didn't tell anyone. And
Mm-hmm.
what I did was I did all my work research on like looking at like my background, my skills and experience, and what I needed to do to get there. And I researched the industry and, what the kind of positions that they were looking for in the industry. And so now, like, writers are not now content marketers and social media managers and directors. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, that's the kind of thing I did in Silicon Valley. And back then, there wasn't such a thing. Those positions weren't created yet. So I visualized myself being at Google when I was in grad school, but didn't tell anyone about it. And what I learned is that you do have to be careful what you tell people about your goals and your dreams,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people don't know how to use visualization and how to plan their future from, or from, where you are to like so many years ahead. A lot of people can't think that far ahead. So basically, I also always knew I wanted to work in the film industry because, I told you about my film background and how like I grew up around like actors and they were all my
Mm-hmm.
friends, and I always hung out um around Hollywood and stuff like that. I used to go to Hollywood parties and I went to raves and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Oh wow.
I did warehouse. I did
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. It was really crazy, but it was really fun. But I always knew I wanted to be deeper into the film industry. But like my family is extremely conservative because I come from an Asian American family, and you know, they don't know anything about the movie industry and stuff like that, and they always, understood like the traditional careers, like they wanted me to be an attorney or whatever. But I was like, no, I think I can somehow get into the film industry. And so basically, what I did was I created a website surrounding the film industry and featuring talent, that worked in the industry. And, you know, in the back of my mind, I always thought, oh, I want to work on a movie or whatever. But, it wasn't something that I knew was going to happen right away. So I was
Mm-hmm.
just focusing on like, what I could do at the moment and continuing to grow. And then I started, at first I was just doing email interviews, and then it shifted to video. And then I decided I was getting so many invites to these film festivals, and I never wanted to like travel so much because, yeah, I was um, just out of college too, and it's really expensive to travel internationally.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to go to France and constantly travel and go to New York, you know. But then I was like, one of my friends, he was like, you know what, I think what you're looking for is behind those doors. I think you should go to
Mm.
these events. And I was like, really? But I was like, "Ah, I don't know." And
Yeah,
then I,
felt
yeah,
like a gamble at that time.
I felt like a gamble, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
also, like, I hadn't done that much traveling. I mean, I think I had just traveled internationally twice in my life before, and so it seemed like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I decided, well, I got connected, somehow to the Sundance Film Festival, you know, it was founded by Robert Redford. I went for the first time in 2013 because I had some film director friends that had a movie premiere there, and all of us went to support, from the Mill Valley Film Festival. Like, we all went to support. So I was like, okay, I'll totally go and I'll interview them at Sundance. So I did. I went in 2013. I went to their film premiere, and yeah, it was really exciting. And then I attended Sundance ever since. So from 2013 until 2021, it was virtual, but I did some virtual coverage and wrote some reviews and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But so ever since 2013, I've been traveling for film festivals, like to New York and all around. And then 2016, I went international and started going to Cannes Film Festival. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been to Venice a couple of times, and
Oh
I mean,
wow.
it's been really amazing. So,
Mm-hmm. Just want to say a couple things here. You mentioned when you were visualizing, you said, "Oh, well, I didn't really tell anyone." And I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, well, I think visualization is so important and not for I mean for a lot of things, right? Confidence and everything, but I think when you tell people that in advance, it can seem as though people have a lot of backlash. Maybe they say, be realistic or, you're being too naive and things like that, right? So it's almost like when, let's say, for example, someone says, I'm going to be a millionaire in 10 years.
mhm,
It's one thing to become one, and it's another to just kind of blatantly say it everywhere you go without, really being there yet. So it's kind of like that thing where you're kind of quiet behind closed doors until you're there at that goal, or you only speak with people that are directly related to that goal or something like that. So I
right,
found that really interesting where you said, I think steps ahead, and I keep it to myself because sometimes goals can be perceived in various ways, especially if someone doesn't understand visualization and such. So I thought that was really interesting. And then I wanted to ask, because you talked a lot about film festivals and how that changed your life, I wanted to just ask for me and the audience to clarify what exactly happens at these film festivals.
Oh, yeah, it's basically like the filmmaking community. So it's basically everyone that works in the film industry. So Cannes Film Festival, for example, like, you have to get accredited. Like, you have to apply, and you have to get, like, you know, a pass, and it's only for people that work in the film industry. So you have to be like either like, like a entertainment editor, or you know, journalist, you know, a director, producer.
It's a little exclusive.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I think it's hard to get in,
Hmm.
because I've done research. Like, you know, you can Google like who can go to the Cannes Film Festival, and it just says only film industry professionals. So you have to be able to prove that you actively work in the film
Hmm.
industry. But basically, at the film festivals, it's really amazing. I mean, to me, it's like summer camp for like, you know, adults in the film industry. I mean, it's so much fun. You make so many lasting connections there, and I mean, everybody, like, depending on what sector you work in, it can be very different. One thing that's true for everyone is that you have opportunities to network and meet people. So
Mm-hmm.
that's true for everyone. But there's some professionals that go there and don't see any movies. They just go for like the networking, like they go for the networking events, the master classes. It's kind of like a conference. People, like, if you're a filmmaker, you know, you have the opportunity to talk to financiers if you're trying to get funding for your film. So there's like a film market area called the Marché du Film, and there it's like sales agents, buyers, all that kind of thing. And then if you're on the press side of things, if you're a media professional, so I've done both now. So I've gone with Diggin Magazine, and I've also gone with my production company, In Close Entertainment, as a producer and filmmaker. So I've seen both sides. But if you're a media person and you write film reviews, then you have access to see all the films, like the ones in competition, the ones out of competition. Many of these films, will be nominated or win, an Academy Award, or they'll be on Netflix and Hulu, and all of those kind of streaming platforms. After the festival, and it's with a lot of big A-listers. So, for me as a journalist, I've gone there and I screen the movies and I write film reviews, but I'm also credentialed as a video journalist where I film the red carpets for the premieres. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll film like Tilda Swinton and Jason Schwartzman walking the red carpet for the French Dispatch that's coming out soon, Wes Anderson's new film, things like that, and then I'll put it all together in like an article for Diggin Magazine. There's a lot of fun things to do. I don't like no one really goes to the beach, which is weird because it's in the south of France and it's on the beach.
Yeah.
Like people, I guess it's because it's like more of a professional event, so like no one really
Yeah.
does that. What else is there? There's opportunities, to interview talent
Mm-hmm.
for journalists and things like that. And yeah, it's a really great time, and I mean it's so awesome to be able to be in the south of France, or in Venice, in Italy. I mean, Dig Magazine has like granted me these opportunities, and I'm just really grateful.
Yeah. That sounds so cool. It's like
Thanks.
a network and conference for like-minded interests, is what it
It
sounds like.
is.
Mm.
Yeah, and I've met so many great friends that I've collaborated on films with.
Oh yeah, I'm
There.
sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask lastly to wrap this
Sure.
up. You've done a lot. You've
Oh
done
yeah.
media, you've done entrepreneurship, you've done media, businesswoman. What would you suggest? How did you balance doing the media and doing, business? And although I know your business is media related, but you have a lot of things. So how did you balance those two different fields almost?
Of the Dig In and the In Close
Mhm.
Entertainment. Well, all of them are like film related.
Mhm.
So it was very natural for me. So, because I've always been studying all of this stuff for many years, and also like growing up around the industry, and watching movies all my life since I was a child, like I learned a lot, because I was
Mhm.
also, reading a lot of interviews with actors and just reading stories, about filmmaking, or like, I watched the extended cuts on DVDs to learn about
Mhm.
it and stuff like that. So all of it was really film industry based. So it was kind of, I guess it was a natural evolution for me. And then because, I've been planning on and hoping that I would get an opportunity to work on films in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It was just natural for me to start a creative and production agency, and in with Diggin magazine, because I worked with a lot of public relations professionals and publicists, and a lot of them, became close friends of mine. I learned that side of the industry too, and so with In Close Entertainment, we also work with filmmakers and actors on the public relations and marketing side of things. So like when I do work for so I mixed it in, and then like I also have my Dig In magazine to promote the films that I work on. So it's like it all ties
Mm-hmm.
together. It's all
What
really
about
related.
the business side, the business aspect? Where did you have a background already? How did you learn to, start an agency, hire people, like all those aspects?
I've always been really business minded. It's
Mm,
interesting, like I've always thought that way. And because like I worked for so many years in the corporate business world, I think just working on that side of things like gave me like a really good sense of like, how business works, and how to like find your team and the right people for the job. And the thing is like as like an entrepreneur and as a CEO and manager, like it's also very relationship based. So you have to be a really good communicator, and you have to know how to work with people really well and how to treat people. And I kind of remember when I started in the corporate world, like even like out of college when I was interning, I just remember those managers that made me feel so comfortable and allowed me the space to learn. And I never
mm-hmm.
felt that really, treated me with a lot of care, because they knew I was like intelligent, and they knew, I was driven and I had goals. So like I appreciated that so much. And I was like, I want to be that kind of manager. Like I want to be, the kind of like CEO, not the kind of leader that intimidates people, but I want to be like a leader that encourages people to grow and to like work together as a team. So I've always been a collaborator, natural collaborator, and also I played team sports when I was, growing up. I played soccer, all through high school and part of college and stuff like that. So I've always been like a team player, and like all of those like kind of like team building and relationship skills that you learn from all of those like experiences help you in the business world. So and it's just I just think it's important um to have the right team that supports each other and that has the same goals. So I guess like because I designed my own company, and I'm like I always have new ideas.
Mm.
I always look for other people that are very creative and driven, also very I like people that are dependable, that keep their appointments, don't flake out and stuff like that. And
Right, flaking is such a thing.
that's like a pet peeve of mine. So, and my family, like, my dad's an entrepreneur. He has his own business. He started it, years and years ago. And, I have some of my cousins, they've owned multiple businesses and stuff like that. So I kind of think that working with them, when I was younger, and I mean, they've just trained me like, as being like a mentor in my life and an elder. And, some, people that I looked up to, I watched how they built their businesses and like what they did
Mm-hmm.
and how they became successful. So it wasn't anything like I don't have an MBA, I have a master's, but, I don't have a MBA. So I actually was going to get my MBA, but then my one of my marketing director at one of the companies, he's like, I don't think you need it. He has his
Oh,
MBA.
really?
It was a total waste.
Really?
He's like, "It's just something to put on your resume," but he's like, "I don't think you need it." So I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I guess maybe not." Because he's like, "It's just a lot of money." He's like, "I think you're doing pretty good." So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but I mean, I love school, but I mean, it's like I love learning, but I realized that like you can keep learning outside of school and stuff like that. So
Right. Right.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, no, that's awesome. I absolutely, enjoyed this conversation and, I wanted to say,
There.
thank you for being here and sharing with the audience what you do and giving your advice and insights. And I wanted to thank the audience for, tuning in and listening to this incredible conversation. And thank you, Cindy, for being here.
Thanks, Shiva. It's been such a pleasure, and I appreciate all your questions, and it's been such a fun time talking to you.
You as well.